You'll have to pray that I don't knock one of those over as I'm wandering up here. Jesus loved his own, and he loved them to the end. Jesus loved his own, and he loved them to the end. In order for us to really understand what is being proclaimed to us in our gospel tonight, we need to go back in time a bit and to really establish the context of what's going on here. So I don't know about you, but I love the movie The Prince of Egypt. It's a delightful movie. I haven't watched it in years. I watched it this week, and the songs are just wonderful, and there's a lot of beautiful moments, but the song at the very beginning, Lord, deliver us. Lord, deliver us. They want to be free. Free from who? Pharaoh and the Egyptians. And so, of course, God fulfills this request. He sends Moses, goes to Pharaoh, let my people go. And in order to kind of say, don't mess with me, Pharaoh, Moses does all these wonderful signs on behalf of God. And of course, we know that Pharaoh never responds. And so what happens? It's the climax of everything. And it's the night of, Moses tells them, take a lamb, sacrifice it, put blood over your doors, and the Lord will pass over, just as the first reading was remembering tonight in our first reading. The Lord will pass over the firstborn. And so Pharaoh, in his grief at losing his son, sends the people away. That's kind of the way the movie portrays it. But the point is, he sends the people away. They've been given their freedom. Sacrifice. There's this element of sacrifice and love about tonight. And sacrifice and love are all through the Old Testament. In every way in which the reparation is made between God and humanity, it always involves sacrifice. And so what does that look like? You see over and over again in the Old Testament, there's these moments in their liturgical celebrations for the Jews where the priest would sprinkle blood on the altar and on the people. See, you think you have it bad when I come around with my thing with water. But at least I'm not doing that with blood. But that's what they would do. That's what they would do. Sprinkle the people with blood. Why would they do that? Well, because blood was a sign of atonement. Because blood was seen as the life source, right? You can't live without it. You have to have it. You don't have blood, you're going to be gone, right? So blood is seen as the thing that gives life. And so sacrificing an animal and putting blood on the altar and the people was a sign of kind of bringing people back to life with God, bringing them out of their sinfulness and giving them a new start. Well, then you have that really strange, confounding request from God when he goes to Abraham and says, I want you to sacrifice your son Isaac. Yikes. And what does he do? He brings his son, he goes up the mountain, he's ready to sacrifice him, all to remain faithful to God. And of course, the angel comes and says, don't touch your son. God knows how faithful you are to him, and he would never actually want you to do that. Because God would never want us to sacrifice another human being. But he would sacrifice his own son for us. And everything is leading to this night when Jesus will willingly allow himself to be betrayed so that he can sacrifice himself for us, so that his blood can be poured out for us. When we gather around this altar, it's both altar and table. Altar because it's a place of sacrifice, table, place of communion, love, and friendship. And that's everything we celebrate tonight. Jesus loved his own, and he loved them to the end. This is the beginning of that statement taking reality forever. The question for us, though, and the thing for us to reflect on in our own lives is this: how do we imitate Christ? In other words, how do we love our own and love them to the end? And you may know this, that the church asked the priest to preach on three things for Holy Thursday. First, priesthood. Second, the Eucharist. Third, fraternal charity. And so priests are called to love God's people and love them to the end. Many of you know that last week I went on a conference, and the conference was all about celibacy, right? All about celibate living. And it was, at first I have to tell you, I wasn't excited to go. Not because of the topic, just because it was the week before Holy Week. And when the good bishop said, Father Durkee, I'm sending you to this conference, and oh, by the way, it's the week before Holy Week, I said, what? And he goes, oh, there's nothing going on at the parish that week. And I said, Bishop, Lord have mercy. But you know what? I am so glad he told me to go, because it really was a beautiful conference. And we were talking about the theology of celibacy and all these different things for me to reflect on that I've already known, but it was a good week. But what happened was the presenter asked this question, and he said, I want all of you, and he was talking to a bunch of priests, nuns, and religious, all of us who are celibate, I want you to reflect on celibate moments in your life. Now, a celibate moment is a neutral thing. It could be both. It could have a negative emotional impact, or it could have a positive emotional impact. It's all about what your interior response is in that moment. So here was an example of a celibate moment. For me, a month ago, my sister just had a baby. And I went, got to see Simon. He's adorable, but I'm kind of biased, but he's awesome. And I'm holding him, and I'm like, Lord, praise Jesus. This is awesome. And I'm so excited for my sister and my brother-in-law. And then I had that thought, I'm like, man, I wonder what it would have been like if I was a biological father. That's a celibate moment, right? But here's the thing. It's not negative. Because even though that's a beautiful natural desire, and yes, for many, many years before I was called to the priesthood, I wanted that, believe me. But even though that's a beautiful natural desire, I know that God has called me to be a priest. And so, for example, like tonight, who could not smile at Alex and Margaret? I mean, when I'm up here watching the two of them who are becoming Catholic and fully initiated this weekend, that is like me holding my newborn. Right there. Those are the moments for a celibate that are just awesome. Because you see someone coming to life in their faith. And so that's what gives priests life. So there was another celibate moment for me recently, and that's when I was watching Batman. How many of you expected that? But bear with me. It was a very good movie, very, very good. Do not recommend for young children, very dark, it would be very scary for young people, but very good movie. The very end of it, though, Catwoman, the lady friend of Batman, is asking Batman to go with her, to leave Gotham. These people don't need you. What have they ever done for you that's worth staying for? Just come with me. We'll start a whole new life together. And before Batman even responds, she just has this kind of dejected look, and she says, you're not going to go, because you're already spoken for. And then right after that, you see the two of them departing, and they're each on a motorcycle, and they're driving away, and they get to the kind of this intersection, and they both go opposite directions. And then the camera focuses on Batman. And there he is, and he's looking in his side mirror, and he's watching her depart. And he watches her until he can't see her anymore. And his face in the moment is kind of sad and kind of filled with grief. And then right after that moment, he looks with resolute determination towards the city of Gotham, and he just goes. That was a celibate moment for me. Because why do we become priests? Because we forsake the love of the one for the love of the many. We forsake the love of the one for the love of the many. God has called priests and religious to love God's church in a plurality. And my heart is for all of you and only you. Okay. So this is why, and I'll probably talk about this every Holy Thursday. Celibacy is a beautiful gift for the priest and a beautiful gift for you. Because it's the priest saying, I love you, and I'll give everything to you. And so there are moments I know that I fall short. There are moments that I know that I'm a sinner, right? And there are moments that maybe some of you have already been disappointed, and I'm sorry for those. But our life as priests is to give everything. And so my hope and prayer is that each year I get a little bit better at doing that, get a little bit better at doing that. But priests should love their own just like Christ and love them to the end. Then the question's for us, though. We're all called to love our own and love them to the end. And I was talking with a staff member, and I'll say this right away. I have permission to talk about this. I always feel like I should say that. But we were reflecting on some things, and she was telling me about an important moment with her and her spouse, her husband, and how they just realized how they could make a difference. And the question was this: what can you do that only you can do? Start there. Now that question is relevant in this way. All of us, we can see the world. We have the war in Ukraine. We have another black person died this past week. We have just racism still exists. We have division politically. We have all of these different things that can make us look and say, are we ever going to be better as people? Ever? What can I really do to change it? Well, what we can really do is to start with what we can only do, and that's love our spouse and our children. Start there. Love them totally. Love them to the end. But here's the reality. We cannot give what we do not have. If we're going to pour ourselves out in love for others, we have to come to this table. We have to come to this table every week. We can't ever miss it. And be filled with Christ's love for us in the Eucharist. Because it's in receiving Christ's love for us in the Eucharist that we can give ourselves in love to others. Can't do it without Christ. We can't change the world without Christ. This night is about how Christ gave us everything, as I said on Palm Sunday. He loved us to the end. Our job is to do the same, is to love our own and to love them to the end.